What if everything you think is love isn't? What if the feeling you call love is actually just you searching for something you lost, something you can't even name anymore? Here's what I've learned. Every person you've ever loved, every song that moved you, every moment that made you feel alive, they weren't the destination. They were breadcrumbs leading you somewhere else. Most people spend their entire lives confusing the search with the arrival. They think love is the emotion, the feeling, the rush. But I've come to understand something different, something ancient wisdom has been teaching for centuries, though most people never hear it. Love isn't what you think it is, and understanding what it actually is, that changes everything. Let me show you something. Think about the last time you truly loved something, not just liked it, loved it. Maybe a person, maybe a place, maybe even just a moment that took your breath away. Now ask yourself, why? Why that person and not another? Why that moment and not some other moment? What made it special? Most people can't answer this. They just say, I don't know, I just felt it. But that's the problem. That's where we get lost. Because real love, the kind that actually transforms you, the kind that lasts, doesn't start with feeling. It starts with something else entirely. It starts with seeing. Ancient texts teach something profound that modern culture has completely forgotten. They say that love is impossible without insight. You cannot truly love what you don't truly understand. Think about that. You can't love what you don't know. Not really. You can be attracted to it. You can want it. You can obsess over it. But love, real love, requires knowledge. Deep knowledge. The kind that sees beneath the surface to what something actually is. Here's an example from those same ancient teachings. People aren't as fond of tin and iron as they are of copper. They're not as fond of copper as they are of silver. They love gold even more. And diamonds they treasure above all. Why? Because they understand the value. They have insight into what makes gold different from copper, what makes a diamond more than just a pretty rock. The more you understand something's true nature, the more you can love it. The deeper your knowledge, the deeper your love. This is why most of what people call love isn't. It's infatuation, it's attraction, it's desire, but it's not love, because love requires something most people never develop: insight into what they're loving. Let me go deeper. When you're drawn to someone, what are you actually drawn to? Their appearance, their personality, the way they make you feel? Here's what ancient wisdom teaches. That pull you feel, that restlessness, that search, it's real, but it's misdirected. There's a teaching that says every human soul is born searching. An infant, the moment it's born, reaches for its mother. Not because it understands who she is, but because something in its nature is programmed to search, to attach, to love. But here's the thing. That capacity for love, that overwhelming urge to connect to something beyond yourself, it wasn't given to you so you could love another person, or a job, or a dream. It was given to you to love something higher. The teaching says it plainly. Every exhibition of affection proceeds from the same source. Your love of property, of children, of another person, even your soul being drawn to music or beauty, they're all the same thing. You're searching for the lost beloved, the one your soul was created to love. You just forgot the name, so you try everything else. You love money, thinking wealth will satisfy you. You love another person, thinking they'll complete you. You chase pleasure, success, status, thinking one of them must be what you're missing, but none of them work, because none of them are what you're actually searching for. This is the first truth about love that most people never learn. The capacity for love in your soul isn't random. It's not just biology. It's not just chemistry. It's intentional. You were created with an infinite capacity to love because you were created to love something infinite. Trying to fill that infinite capacity with finite things is why nothing ever satisfies. why every relationship eventually disappoints, why every achievement feels hollow after you reach it. It's like trying to fill the ocean with a bucket of water. No matter how much you pour in, it's never enough, because the ocean isn't meant for buckets, it's meant for rivers. Your soul has an ocean-sized capacity for love, and you keep trying to fill it with buckets. Now, here's where it gets interesting. Where most spiritual teachings would say, just love God and forget everything else, the wisdom I've studied goes deeper. It doesn't say human love is wrong. It doesn't say attachment is evil. It says something more nuanced. It says, cut asunder one relationship so another might be established. Block your heart in one direction so it might find its way in another direction. Throw away the foul insect of the earth so you might be bestowed the brilliant diamond of heaven. Notice the language. It's not condemnation, it's exchange. You're not being asked to stop loving. You're being asked to redirect your love towards something that can actually receive it, that can actually satisfy it. Because here's what nobody tells you. Worldly love isn't just insufficient. It's a fever. There's a teaching that describes it perfectly. When you're sick with worldly attachment, there's no light in your eyes, no hearing in your ears. The taste on your tongue is corrupted. There's no grip in your hands, no strength in your feet. That's what misdirected love does. It weakens you, blinds you, makes you sick, not because loving is wrong, but because you're loving the wrong thing, like a plant trying to grow toward artificial light instead of the sun. The striving is noble. The direction is fatal. So what's the cure? The same texts give us the answer. Turn to the fountainhead, which revived Adam with the divine spirit. In other words, go to the source. Stop trying to quench your thirst from puddles when there's an ocean available. But here's where we hit the real question, the one most people are afraid to ask. How do you love something you can't see? How do you direct this overwhelming need for connection towards something invisible, something most people aren't even sure is real? This is where everything changes, where the teaching moves from philosophy to practice. Because love of the divine, real love, not just religious duty, follows the same principle we started with. It's impossible without insight. You can't love what you don't know. So the question isn't, how do I force myself to love God? The question is, how do I come to know God? Knowledge first. Love follows. Always. The texts describe a progression, a path, and it starts exactly where you are right now. First, there must be certainty of belief in existence. Not proof, not scientific evidence. Just enough probability, enough likelihood that you're willing to take a step forward. Think about it like seeing smoke in the distance. You can't see the fire, but smoke means fire is there. You infer it. That's the first stage. Knowledge by inference. Most people get stuck here. They want absolute proof before they'll move. But that's not how it works. Faith, real faith, means taking a step before you have all the answers. Believing there's a fire because you see smoke, even though you can't see flames yet. But here's the promise in the teaching. If you take that step, if you move toward the source based on inference alone, you don't stay at inference. You move to the second stage, certainty by sight. This is where you actually see the fire, not metaphorically, actually, where God becomes more real to you than the person sitting next to you, where you move from believing he might exist to knowing he does. And how does this happen? Through experience, through answered prayers, through moments when the veil lifts and you see clearly. The teaching says, the more you grow in cognizance and insight of the divine, the more you increase in pleasure and joy. Without divine insight, no pleasure can be attained. The real source of pleasure and delight is insight of matters divine. Read that again. Real pleasure doesn't come from getting what you want. It comes from seeing clearly what is. This is revolutionary, because it means the joy you've been chasing through achievements, relationships, experiences, you've been looking in the wrong place. Joy isn't in the object. It's in the insight. It's in truly seeing. The more you see of the divine, the more pleasure you experience. Because your soul was designed for this. This is what it's been searching for all along. But we're still not at love yet. We're at knowledge, at sight, at recognition. Love comes next. The teaching is clear. Deeper insight alone gives birth to love. The union of insight and love begets pleasure. Think about how perfect this is. Most religious teaching says you must love God, like it's a command you have to obey whether you feel it or not, like fake it till you make it. But this wisdom says the opposite. It says you can't force love. You can only increase knowledge. And when knowledge is deep enough, love appears by itself naturally, inevitably, like putting water on a seed. You don't force the plant to grow. You create the conditions, and growth happens on its own. So if you don't feel love for the divine yet, the answer isn't to guilt yourself. The answer is to increase your knowledge, your insight, your direct experience of what the divine actually is. Because the moment you truly see beauty, you can't help but love it. Here's where it gets personal, where the teaching stops being theory and becomes transformation. There are 3 stages of this journey, 3 levels of love. The first is called the soul at rest. This is where basic faith exists, but you're still fighting, still struggling. Your lower nature pulls you one way, your higher nature another. You believe, but you don't have peace yet. The second stage is where you start actually experiencing divine favor. Prayers get answered in ways that are beyond coincidence. You have dreams that come true. You sense guidance that can't be explained. This is certainty by sight. You're seeing the fire now, not just the smoke. At this stage, love begins. But it's not your nature yet. It's something you experience sometimes, but you can still fall away from it. It's a state you visit, not a place you live. The third stage, that's where love becomes who you are. The texts describe it as the stage where love of the divine and enmity to all beside him become your characteristic, your temperament, your default setting. This doesn't mean you hate people. It means you're no longer confused about where to direct your deepest love. You're no longer trying to get from creation what only the Creator can give you. At this stage, the seeker experiences delight only in the throbbing of love for the divine, and regards it as the true comfort of the heart. Only. That word matters. Not mainly, not often, only. This is the climax of human nature, the end of all spiritual progress, where you were designed to arrive. But how do you get there? The teaching gives specific steps, clear methods. This isn't abstract philosophy. It's a path anyone can walk. First, rectify your belief. Most people worship a god of their own imagination, an idea, a concept, not the reality. You have to be willing to question every assumption about what God is until you arrive at something real. Second, seek holy company. Surround yourself with people who are further along this path, not because they're perfect, but because proximity matters. Hearts incline toward hearts. Being near someone who has love makes love grow in you. Third, pursue insight through prayer, not just asking for things, asking to understand, to see, to know. The teaching promises. The more you advance in divine insight and understanding, the more you will grow in love. Notice the order. Insight first, then love. Always. This is why people who try to force themselves to love God, who guilt themselves for not feeling enough emotion, who perform religious rituals mechanically, they're exhausted. They're doing it backwards. You can't create love through effort. You can only create the conditions for love to emerge. And those conditions are knowledge, insight, understanding. Here's what this means for your life right now. If you feel disconnected from the divine, the question isn't, why don't I love enough? The question is, what am I not seeing yet? If you feel empty despite having everything you thought you wanted, it's not because something's wrong with you. It's because you're still trying to fill an infinite capacity, finite things. If you keep loving things that disappoint you, people who fail you, goals that leave you hollow after you achieve them, it's because you're directing your love toward reflections instead of the source. Every love you've ever felt for anything in this world was actually your soul catching a glimpse of divine beauty in something temporary, mistaking the reflection for the reality, trying to hold water by clutching at the moonlight on its surface. But here's the beautiful part. Every one of those loves taught you something, prepared you for something, led you somewhere. The love you felt for another person, it taught you that connection is real, that there's something beyond yourself worth caring about. The love you felt for beauty, for art, for music, it taught you that transcendence exists, that there are moments when something infinite breaks through into the finite. The love you felt for your own dreams and ambitions, it taught you that you were made for more than just survival, that longing for greatness is built into your nature. None of it was wasted, but none of it was the destination either. They were all teachers, showing you what love feels like in small doses, preparing you to handle the overwhelming reality of love at its full strength. Because real love, divine love, isn't a gentle feeling, it's a consuming fire. The texts use this image repeatedly. A person who establishes a perfect relationship with God resembles someone who perceives the light of fire from afar, then approaches close, then plunges into it until they're completely consumed, until there's nothing left but the fire. This is the climax of the blessed love of God. Not comfort, not safety, not peace in the way most people understand it. Transformation so complete that your ego, your lower nature, everything that makes you selfish and small, it burns away, and what's left is something new, something that reflects divine attributes the way iron in fire takes on the appearance and qualities of fire. You're still you, but you're no longer just you. The teaching is careful about this. It says you don't become God. You can never be God. You're a creature, but you can become so consumed by divine love that you demonstrate divine qualities. You become a reflection, a manifestation, like a mirror that's been polished until it's perfectly clean. It doesn't become the object it reflects, but it shows that object so clearly that looking at the mirror is almost like looking at the thing itself. This is what love does. Real love, divine love. It doesn't destroy you. It reveals you. The you that was always meant to exist. The you that's been buried under layers of ego and fear and misdirected desire. And here's the paradox nobody expects. That transformation, that burning away of everything false, it's the only thing that actually satisfies. Because this is what you were made for. This fire, this love, this complete surrender that somehow sets you free. Everything else you've tried has been substitutes, shadows, echoes. This is the real thing. And once you taste it, even for a moment, you understand why the texts say the lover prefers their beloved to everything else, why hardships become bounties, why torment becomes sweet. Not because pain stops hurting, but because the love is so overwhelming that everything else becomes secondary. There's a teaching about this. It says the greatest sign of sincerity is that you prefer your beloved to everything else. If you experience hardships, you view them as bounties because of your overpowering love. Torment becomes a sweet drink. No sharp sword can bring separation between you and your beloved. No great calamity can restrain you from his remembrance. This sounds extreme to modern ears, fanatical even, but it's just describing what happens when you finally find what you've been searching for all along. When you stop trying to quench infinite thirst with finite water. When you come home. This is phase 1, the foundation, the framework. You now understand that what you thought was love probably wasn't. that real love requires insight, knowledge, understanding, that your soul has been searching for something specific all along, and everything else has been a distraction from the real search. You understand that there's a path, stages, a progression from smoke to fire to being consumed by fire. But we've only started. We've mapped the territory. Now we need to explore it, to see it from every angle, to let these truths sink into places words can't reach on the first pass. Because transformation isn't about hearing something once, it's about letting truth marinate in your soul until it changes you from the inside out. So let's go deeper. Let's look at this same wisdom from different angles. Let's explore what it means when the texts say, "The union of insight and love begets pleasure." What it looks like when divine love descends on human love, how the two rivers meet, and what that meeting creates in the human heart. Let's talk about what love actually does to a person. Most people think love is something you have, like a possession. I have love for this person. I have love for this thing. But ancient wisdom teaches something different. It says love is something that has you. Real love doesn't just affect how you feel. It affects what you are. There's a teaching that says when a person falls in love with someone, and their love is total, it becomes their food and their drink. They take on the complexion of the character and lifestyle of the beloved. The greater the love, the more you're involuntarily drawn toward the qualities of the loved one, so much so that you become their very reflection. Think about that. You become a reflection of what you love. This is why love is so dangerous when it's misdirected, because whatever you love, you become, consistently with your capacity. A person who loves God acquires God's light, and those who love darkness acquire the darkness. You can't love something intensely without taking on its qualities. It's a law of nature, like iron in fire taking on the properties of fire. This is why the question of what you love isn't just important, it's everything, because it determines what you're becoming. If you love wealth, you become like wealth, hard, cold, counted, and measured. You start seeing people as assets or liabilities. Everything becomes a transaction. If you love status, you become like status, fragile, dependent on perception, constantly anxious about how you're viewed, never at peace. If you love another person more than anything else, you give them the power to destroy you, because you've made something fragile and temporary into your ultimate concern. But if you love the divine, then you start taking on divine qualities, patience, mercy, compassion, strength, wisdom, not because you're trying to, not through effort or discipline, but naturally. The same way iron doesn't try to be hot when it's in fire. It just becomes hot because that's what happens when fire surrounds it. This is the secret nobody teaches. Character development isn't about forcing yourself to be better. It's about changing what you love, what you give your deepest attention to, what you let consume you. Change your love, you change your nature. Let me show you how this plays out. The teaching describes love using an Arabic word, muhabbat. The root means to be filled, like when you say a donkey's belly is full of water, or a camel drank to full capacity. Love isn't a feeling that comes and goes. It's a filling, a saturation, a state where you're so completely occupied by something that there's no room for anything else. The teaching even says that the word for sleep comes from the same root, because he who is filled with something else loses himself as if he had gone to sleep, deprived of all consciousness of his own self. Read that again. Real love makes you lose consciousness of yourself. You're so filled with the beloved that your own ego, your own concerns, your own preferences, they become secondary, almost invisible. This is what happens in the third stage of divine love. You don't just feel affection for God, you're filled with Him, saturated. consumed to the point where your own will becomes aligned with divine will, where His purposes become your purposes, His concerns become your concerns. You lose yourself, but you don't disappear. You become more real than you've ever been. It's like the teaching says, they are in the world but are outside the world. Possessing self, they are selfless. They have only Him in the world and become wholly His. They live for Him and die for Him. This sounds like surrender, and it is, but not the surrender of defeat, the surrender of arrival, of finally being where you were meant to be all along. Here's something most people never realize about love. It has its own intelligence. The texts describe how when a person supplicates to God with complete sincerity, with total love, it draws God's attention in a unique way. Divine mercy gets ready for a new creation in order to fulfill their purpose. Matters that appear impossible to the worldly become possible. This is what love does. It creates. It opens doors that logic says should stay closed. It makes ways where there is no way. Not through magic, through alignment. When your love becomes pure enough, strong enough, total enough, you align with divine purpose. And when you're aligned with divine purpose, what was impossible for ego becomes natural for love. The texts say it beautifully. When love descends upon their hearts, they turn to God in such an extraordinary manner that a condition is produced which draws the extraordinary mercy of God Almighty to itself. Along with it, every particle of this universe is drawn to them. Every particle. Not just some things, everything. This is the power of purified love. It doesn't just change you, it changes how reality responds to you. But here's what you need to know. This doesn't happen through casual interest. It doesn't happen through occasional devotion. It happens through total commitment, complete investment. The teaching describes it as a fire that burns up the garment of low passions, as accepting death for the sake of the divine, as becoming enemies with your own ego. This is where most people quit, because they want the benefits of love without the cost of love. They want the transformation without the burning, the emergence without the cocoon. But you can't have one without the other. Real transformation requires real love, and real love requires total investment. There's no halfway, no casual participation. You're either in the fire or you're not. And if you're in it, you will be changed. Now, let me show you something about how love develops, how it grows from small to all-consuming. The texts describe specific stages, clear progressions. This isn't random or mystical. It's as orderly as a plant growing from seed to tree. It starts with faith, just basic faith, willingness to believe there might be something beyond what you can see, knowledge by inference, seeing smoke and inferring fire. At this stage, you're not in love yet. You're just open, curious, willing to explore. Then you start seeking. You pray, but you don't know if anyone's listening. You read, you think, you wonder. You're in the dark, but you're moving toward where you think the light might be. This is hard. It feels like walking blind, like searching for something you're not even sure exists. But here's what the teaching promises. If you keep seeking, if you keep moving toward that uncertain light, God moves toward you. The texts say it plainly. If man moves a single step in God's direction, he moves 2 steps. If man walks swiftly toward him, God races toward man and fills his heart with light. This is the turning point. The moment faith becomes experience. You prayed, not knowing if anyone heard. Then something happens that's too specific to be coincidence. A door opens exactly when you needed it. An answer comes in a way that could only be intentional. You asked for insight, and suddenly you see something you've never seen before. A pattern, a meaning, a truth that makes everything else make sense. This is certainty by sight. You're not inferring the fire anymore. You're seeing flames. And seeing flames changes everything, because now you know it's real. Not theoretically, actually real. as real as the ground under your feet. This is where love begins to ignite. Not because you're trying to feel something, but because how could you not love what you're starting to see? The teaching says the more one grows in cognizance and insight of the divine, the more they will increase in pleasure and joy. It's automatic. See clearly enough, and love follows. But here's what you need to understand. This stage is still fragile. The love is real, but it's not permanent yet. You can still fall away from it, still get distracted, still let worldly concerns eclipse the divine again. This is the second stage. Love exists, but it's not your nature yet. It comes and goes. You experience it, then lose it. Feel it deeply, then watch it fade. This is where most spiritual seekers get stuck. They have moments of connection, then long periods of dryness. They touch something real, then can't find their way back to it. The texts explain why. Until the love of God becomes characteristic of a person, some traces of wrong linger. They haven't fully discharged their obligations to providence. They fall short of perfect meeting. In other words, your love isn't pure yet. It's mixed with other loves, competing loyalties, divided attention. You love God, but you also love comfort. You want the divine, but you also want worldly success. You seek spiritual growth, but you're not willing to give up the things that prevent it. This is the struggle of the second stage, wanting both, trying to serve two masters. And the teaching is clear. It doesn't work. You can't love God and love the world with equal intensity. One will win. One will dominate. One will fill you. So the question becomes, which one do you choose? This is where the third stage begins. Not when you arrive at perfect love, but when you make the choice to pursue it no matter what it costs. The texts describe it as welcoming death in God's cause, as discarding everything for His sake, as cutting asunder one relationship so another might be established. This sounds extreme, but it's just describing the reality of total commitment. If you want to become a master musician, you have to sacrifice other pursuits. If you want to build something great, you have to say no to good opportunities that would distract you. If you want deep intimacy with another person, you have to be willing to be vulnerable in ways that terrify you. Love always costs something. Divine love costs everything. But here's what nobody tells you. What it costs is exactly what's poisoning you. The texts describe worldly attachment as a fever. When you're sick with it, there's no light in your eyes, no hearing in your ears. Your taste is corrupted, no strength in your hands or feet. What you're being asked to give up is the thing that's making you sick. This is the exchange, the foul insect of the earth for the brilliant diamond of heaven, the poisonous fever of seeking the world for the health that comes from seeking the divine. You're not losing something good, you're removing something toxic, something that's been masquerading as good but has actually been slowly destroying you. And when you finally let it go, when you finally say, I choose the divine over everything else, that's when the third stage begins. The stage where love becomes your nature, your characteristic, your default setting, where you don't have to try to remember God, you'd have to try to forget, where thinking of Him becomes as natural as breathing, where His will and your will align so completely that you can't tell where one ends and the other begins. The texts describe this as the stage where all progress toward nearness to God terminates, the climax that has been determined for human nature, the arrival point we were all designed to reach. And here's the most beautiful part. When you reach this stage, when divine love has completely filled you, you don't just become a better version of yourself, you become a reflection of divine qualities. The teaching says it clearly. To the degree that a person discards their self and their will and acquires nearness to the being who is all good, to that degree, divine qualities are reflected in their soul. You don't generate goodness from within yourself. Creatures are nothing in themselves. But when you become empty of ego, space opens for divine qualities to be reflected through you, like a perfectly polished mirror that has no image of its own, but reflects perfectly whatever stands before it. This is what love creates, not just feeling, not just devotion, transformation. You become a different kind of person, not through willpower, not through discipline, through being filled with something so powerful that everything false burns away and only what's real remains. But let me bring this back down to something practical, because all of this can sound abstract, theoretical, far away. What does this actually look like in daily life? The texts give us specific signs, clear indicators that this transformation is happening. First, you begin to prefer the beloved to everything else. Not just say you do, actually do it. When there's a choice between what God wants and what you want, you choose what God wants, not grimly, not resentfully, naturally, because that's where your love is. Second, hardships start looking different. The teaching says that if you experience difficulties, you view them as bounties because of your overpowering love. Torment becomes a sweet drink. This doesn't mean pain stops hurting. It means the context changes. When you know that difficulty is polishing you, refining you, preparing you for greater nearness to the one you love, it becomes valuable, not pleasant, but precious. Third, your relationship to sin changes completely. The texts say that those in perfect love don't just avoid obvious sins like murder or theft. They consider the slightest neglect as a great sin. Leaving God to have even the least inclination toward anything else feels like poison. This is what happens when love becomes total. Your standards change, not because someone's forcing you, because you can't bear the thought of anything coming between you and what you love most. Fourth, you become constantly occupied with seeking forgiveness and purification, not out of fear, out of love, like a lover who's always concerned about whether their beloved is pleased with them. The teaching explains this beautifully. As the wine bibber is not satisfied with drinking once and always demands more in the same way, when the love of the divine surges up in the heart, it demands that it should win the pleasure of God more and more. The intensity of love demands more and more closeness, more and more purity, more and more alignment. You're never satisfied, not because God is withholding, but because your capacity for love keeps expanding. You keep discovering deeper levels of what's possible. And fifth, your prayers change. The texts describe how those consumed with divine love develop such sincerity, such spiritual beauty, that when they supplicate, it draws divine mercy in extraordinary ways. Their prayers aren't just requests, they're conversations, intimate dialogue between lover and beloved, and answers come, not occasionally, consistently, in ways that prove beyond doubt that someone is listening, someone is responding, someone cares. This is what the third stage looks like in practice, not abstract mysticism, daily reality of being in relationship with the divine. But here's something crucial. You don't arrive at this overnight. This is a journey, a progression, a gradual transformation. The texts are clear. These ranks are granted after arriving at the stage of faith. One who is firm in their faith progressively achieves these ranks, progressively. Not instantly, not all at once. You start with smoke, you move to seeing fire. You eventually plunge into fire and are consumed by it. Each stage prepares you for the next. You can't skip steps, can't rush the process, but you can trust it. Because it's not random, it's not arbitrary, it's as reliable as a seed growing into a tree. If you provide the right conditions, growth happens. And the right conditions are simple. Seek knowledge, pursue insight, be willing to let truth change you. That's it. Knowledge, openness, consistency. The rest happens naturally. Love emerges from deep enough knowledge the way flowers emerge from properly tended soil, not through force, through cultivation. So, if you're feeling like you should be further along than you are, stop. You're exactly where you need to be. The question isn't whether you're advanced enough. The question is whether you're seeking consistently enough. Are you pursuing insight every day? Are you praying for understanding? Are you surrounding yourself with people who know more than you do? Are you reading, studying, contemplating the nature of the divine? If yes, you're on the path. The transformation is happening, even if you can't see it yet. Because here's something the texts emphasize. When you're inside the transformation, you often can't see it. It's others who notice first. You're just living your life, seeking, praying, trying to understand more deeply. But people around you start saying you've changed. You seem different, more peaceful, more certain, more present. Because something is happening beneath the surface. Something you can't force, but can only allow. The teaching describes it as a new life being generated by the burning up of low attributes, a piece of iron thrown into fire that takes on the appearance of fire. You're still you, but you're also becoming something new, something that demonstrates divine manifestation while remaining a creature. This is the paradox of love. It destroys you and creates you simultaneously, burns away what's false and reveals what's real. And the more it progresses, the more you realize this is what you were always meant for. This fire, this transformation, this complete surrender that sets you free. Everything else was preparation, training, practice rounds. This is the real thing. The thing your soul has been screaming for underneath all the noise. And once you touch it, even for a moment, you can never go back to being satisfied with less. Because how could you? How could you go back to trying to quench infinite thirst with finite water when you've tasted the ocean? You can't. You won't. Something in you has been awakened that refuses to settle. This is both the blessing and the burden of this path. Once you see clearly enough, you can't unsee. Once you taste real love, everything else tastes like ash. But that's not a curse. It's freedom, because it means you'll keep seeking until you find what actually satisfies. And the texts promise, seek and you will find. Move toward him, and he moves toward you, faster, with more eagerness than you're bringing to the search. The God you're looking for is looking for you with greater intensity than you're looking for him. Think about that. You're not trying to get the attention of someone indifferent. You're responding to someone who's been calling you all along. Every moment of restlessness you've ever felt, every dissatisfaction with lesser things, every hunger that couldn't be fed by what the world offered, that was him, calling you home, drawing you toward the only thing that will ever truly satisfy. And every step you take toward him is met with 2 steps from him toward you. This is the nature of divine love. It doesn't wait for you to become perfect before it responds. It responds to your seeking, your sincerity, your willingness to turn toward the light even when you're still mostly in darkness. The teaching says, if man should walk swiftly toward him, God races toward man and fills his heart with light. Races, not strolls, not eventually shows up. Races. This is who you're dealing with. Not a distant deity waiting for you to prove yourself. Not an indifferent force that doesn't care whether you succeed. A beloved who's more eager for reunion than you are. The only thing stopping complete union is the barriers you're holding on to, the attachments you're not ready to release, the false securities you're still clutching. But even those, he'll help you let go of them, if you ask, if you're willing, because this whole journey isn't about you trying to reach something impossible. It's about you learning to receive what's already being offered. The love is already there. The grace is already available. The door is already open. You just have to be willing to walk through it. And walking through means leaving some things behind. The worldly loves that have been substitutes. The ego that's been your identity. The control that's been your security. All of it has to be released. not violently, not all at once necessarily, but consistently, progressively, with each step forward. And as you release, you receive. As you empty, you're filled. As you die to the false self, the true self emerges. This is the path of love, not comfortable, not easy, but transformative in ways nothing else can match. And here's what nobody tells you until you're deep into it. The transformation doesn't feel like sacrifice. It feels like relief, like you've been carrying weight you weren't meant to carry, and you finally got permission to set it down. Like you've been striving for things that weren't yours to have, and you finally got to stop trying. Like you've been wearing a mask for so long, you forgot your real face, and someone finally said, "You can take that off now." That's what happens when you let divine love consume you. You don't become less, you become more real, more alive, more yourself than you've ever been. Because this is what you were designed for. This love, this surrender, this complete alignment with divine purpose. Everything else has been detour. This is the destination. And once you arrive, once love has filled you completely, once the third stage has taken over your nature, you don't just find peace, you become peace. Not just for yourself, but for everyone around you. Because the texts describe what happens when someone reaches this stage. They don't just change internally, they become a source of light and transformation for others. Their very presence makes hearts incline toward truth. Their prayers open doors. Their lives become evidence that this path is real and the destination is worth every cost. They don't do this through preaching, through convincing, through arguing. They do it through being, through demonstrating what happens when a human soul aligns completely with divine will. And others see it, feel it, want it, because everyone is searching for the same thing. Most just don't know what they're searching for yet, but when they encounter someone who's found it, when they see real transformation, when they feel the presence of someone who's been consumed by divine fire and emerged purified, something in them recognizes it, responds to it, wants to move toward it. This is how the teaching spreads, not through force, through love, through demonstration. One person lets divine love consume them. They become a reflection of divine qualities. Others see that reflection and want to know the source. And the cycle continues. Light creating more light. Love generating more love. This is the purpose of the journey. Not just personal transformation, collective elevation. You're not being changed just for yourself. You're being changed to become a conduit, a mirror, a reflection through which others can see what's possible. Your transformation is your testimony. Your love is your evidence. Your life is your argument. And the more completely you let divine love fill you, the more effectively you demonstrate to others what this path leads to. Not through words, through being. This is phase 2, the deepening, the exploration of what love actually is and what it actually does. You now understand that love transforms, that it's not just feeling but filling, that it takes you on progressively, in stages from inference to sight to experience. You understand that there's a cost, but the cost is exactly what's been poisoning you. That surrender leads to freedom. That death to false self leads to life in true self. But there's one more thing we need to explore: the final integration. How this wisdom actually applies to your life. How you take these truths and let them change you. That's phase 3, the practical, the actionable, the what now? Let's go there. So here's where we are. You understand that most of what gets called love isn't. That real love requires knowledge, insight, understanding, that your soul has been searching for divine connection all along and everything else has been substitutes. You understand that there's a path, stages, from smoke to fire to being consumed by fire, from inference to sight to experience, from struggling with faith to living in love. You understand that this transformation is real, that it changes not just how you feel, but what you are, that it makes you a reflection of divine qualities, that it draws grace and mercy in ways that seem impossible until you experience them. But understanding isn't enough. Information without application is just entertainment. So let's talk about what you actually do, starting now, today, with the life you currently have, because that's the beauty of this teaching. It doesn't require you to escape to a monastery, or abandon your responsibilities, or become someone you're not. It meets you where you are, and from there, it changes you into what you're meant to become. First thing, understand that this is a relationship, not a system, not a formula, not a set of techniques you master. A relationship with a living reality who knows you better than you know yourself. The texts are clear. God talks to those who turn to Him, not metaphorically, actually, in words full of power, in responses that prove beyond doubt that someone is listening. This is what changes everything. When you move from believing God exists to knowing He's present, active, responsive. And how do you get there? The teaching gives clear steps, not complicated, just consistent. First, rectify your belief. Most people worship an idea of God they inherited or constructed, not the reality. You have to be willing to question everything you think you know about the divine until you arrive at something real, something that matches what's actually there, not what you were told was there. This means prayer, but not just asking for things, asking to see, to understand, to be shown the truth even if it contradicts what you currently believe. This is scary, because it means being willing to be wrong, being willing to let cherished beliefs die if they're not accurate. But it's necessary, because you can't love what you don't truly know, and you can't truly know if you're not willing to let truth correct your misconceptions. So start there. Pray for true knowledge, for accurate understanding, for the veils to be lifted, and be ready for answers that disrupt your current framework. Second, seek holy company. The texts say this directly. You need to be around people who are further along this path than you are, not because they're perfect, but because hearts incline toward hearts. Proximity matters. Being near someone who has more insight makes insight grow in you. This doesn't mean you need a guru or a master or special access. It means you need to intentionally spend time with people who take this seriously, who seek the divine genuinely, who are on the same path even if they're at different points. This might mean finding a community, might mean finding a study circle, might mean having one friend who gets it, who you can talk to regularly about these things. But isolation kills growth. You need others, not to impress, not to compete with, to grow alongside. Third, pursue understanding through prayer. The teaching is explicit. The more you advance in divine insight and understanding, the more you will grow in love. This means you study, you contemplate, you reflect deeply on the nature of reality, the purpose of existence, the attributes of the divine. You're not just reading for information, you're reading for transformation, asking after each insight, what does this mean for how I live, how I love, how I relate to what I'm experiencing? You're letting truth sink deeper than intellectual understanding, letting it reach the heart, letting it change not just what you think, but how you think. And you're doing this consistently, not in bursts, not when you feel like it, daily, even when it's dry, especially when it's dry. Because the teaching promises, those who strive in our cause shall be shown the ways that lead to us. Strive, not occasionally dabble. Strive. This requires commitment, but not the grim, teeth-gritting kind. The I know this matters and I'm willing to show up even when it's hard kind, like watering a garden. You don't wait until you feel inspired. You do it because you know what grows depends on consistent care. Fourth, pay attention to signs. The texts describe how God begins responding to sincere seekers through visions, revelations, answered prayers, moments of insight that couldn't be coincidence. Most people miss these because they're not watching for them. They pray, then forget they prayed. They ask, then don't notice when answers come. You have to develop attentiveness, awareness, the habit of noticing what's actually happening around you and connecting it to your seeking. Did you pray about a decision and then have an unexpected conversation that clarified everything? That's not accident. That's response. Did you ask for understanding about something and then have a dream that showed you exactly what you needed to see? That's not random neurons firing. That's guidance. Did you feel stuck in sin or pattern or struggle, then suddenly found strength to break free that wasn't there yesterday? That's not you. That's grace. Start noticing. Start tracking. Start recognizing that when you move toward the divine moves toward you in very specific, very tangible ways. This builds certainty, and certainty fuels love, because how can you not love what you're directly experiencing as real and responsive and caring? Fifth, understand that the path has costs. The texts are unflinching about this. To arrive at deep love, you have to be willing to let go of what's blocking it. This doesn't mean you reject the world. It means you refuse to let the world be your ultimate concern, your deepest love, your primary attachment. The teaching uses the language of cutting asunder one relationship so another might be established, blocking your heart in one direction so it might find its way in another. This is the exchange, the foul insect of earth for the brilliant diamond of heaven, the fever of seeking the world for the health of seeking the divine. In practice, this looks like boundaries, priorities, decisions about how you spend time, what you give attention to, what you allow to consume your thoughts. It doesn't mean you can't have relationships, success, possessions. It means none of those things get to be God. None of them get the love that belongs to something higher. When they try to take that place, when they demand ultimate loyalty, you have to be willing to say no. This is hard, but it's also clarifying, because most of the suffering in life comes from trying to get from creation what only Creator can give. When you stop trying to make finite things bear infinite weight, they stop crushing you under expectations they were never meant to meet. You can enjoy them without being enslaved by them. Appreciate them without being destroyed when they change. This is freedom, but it requires letting go, consistently, whenever you notice your grip tightening on something temporary. Sixth, expect transformation to be gradual. The teaching is clear about stages, progression, time. You don't go from smoke to being consumed by fire in a week. You might not get there in a year, possibly not in a decade. And that's okay, because this isn't about rushing to some finish line. It's about progressively aligning more and more of your life with truth. Some days you'll feel like you're making progress. Some days you'll feel like you've gone backwards. Both are part of the process. What matters is consistency, showing up, continuing to seek even when you're not seeing results, trusting the process even when you're in the dark. Because the teaching promises one who is firm in their faith progressively achieves these ranks. Progressively, not instantly, but reliably. If you stay on the path, transformation happens, not because you're forcing it, because the path itself is transformative. Walking it changes you. Trust that, even when it's slow, even when it's hard, even when you can't see the progress. The seed growing in darkness doesn't look like it's changing, but it is. Every single day, something's happening beneath the surface. Same with you. Even on days when you feel stuck, something's shifting. Some attachment is loosening. Some truth is sinking deeper. Some grace is working. You just can't see it yet. Now, let me give you something practical for right now. If all of this feels overwhelming, which it should because we're talking about complete transformation, here's where you start. You start with honesty. You look at your life and you ask, what am I actually loving most right now? Where is my deepest attention going? What gets my best energy? Not what you wish it was, not what you say it is, what it actually is. For most people, the answer is uncomfortable. Wealth, status, comfort, pleasure, another person, success, security, control. None of those things are wrong to want. But if they're what you love most, you're trying to fill infinite capacity with finite things, and you'll never be satisfied. So you acknowledge that, without guilt, without shame, just honest recognition. I've been giving my deepest love to things that can't receive it. I've been searching in the wrong places. That's step 1, just seeing clearly. Step 2, you ask for help. You pray, show me what's real. Give me insight into what you actually are. Help me love what's worth loving. Not a formula, not religious words you don't mean. Honest request from wherever you actually are. Step 3, you start studying, reading, contemplating, not just consuming content, actually sitting with truth, letting it challenge you, letting it question your assumptions. You're building the knowledge that love requires, the insight that births affection. Step 4, you start noticing, paying attention to your life, to patterns, to what makes you feel alive and what makes you feel empty, to moments when something breaks through and you touch something real. You're developing awareness, sensitivity, the ability to recognize divine presence in what you're already experiencing. Step 5, you make one change. Not everything at once. One thing, one attachment you loosen, one priority you shift, one boundary you set. Something that moves you even slightly away from loving the world most toward loving the divine most. Maybe it's how you start your mornings. Maybe it's what you do when you're anxious. Maybe it's who you spend time with or what you spend time thinking about. One change, one step, one adjustment, and then you watch what happens. The texts promise. Move one step toward him, he moves 2 toward you. Walk toward him, he runs toward you. Test it. See if it's true. Make the move and watch for the response. Because this isn't theory, this is relationship, and relationships require both parties to participate. You've spent your whole life moving away from the divine, chasing things that can't satisfy. What happens when you stop? When you turn around? When you take even one step back toward the source? Find out. Not because I'm telling you to, because you want to know if this is real. And here's what I know. If you actually do this, you will get a response. Not on your timeline, not in the way you expect, but clearly enough that you'll know it wasn't coincidence. That response will build your certainty, and certainty will deepen your seeking, and deeper seeking will bring more response. The cycle feeds itself. Seeking leads to finding. Finding leads to love. Love leads to transformation. And before you know it, you're not the same person who started this journey. But remember, transformation isn't comfortable. The texts are honest about this. They describe fire, death, consumption, complete surrender. This doesn't happen gently. It happens the way iron becomes purified, through heat that burns away everything that isn't iron. Your ego will resist. Your lower nature will fight. Everything in you that is comfortable with things as they are will try to pull you back. This is normal, expected, part of the path. The question isn't whether you'll face resistance. The question is whether you'll push through it. Because on the other side of that resistance is everything you've been searching for. The satisfaction that finally satisfies. The love that fills infinite capacity. The peace that makes all the struggle worth it. But you have to be willing to go through the fire to get there. And here's something the texts emphasize that most teachings leave out. You don't go through alone. The same divine reality you're trying to reach is helping you reach it. The same love you're trying to access is already surrounding you, waiting for you to open to it. You're not trying to earn something you don't have. You're learning to receive what's already being offered. Every prayer you pray is heard. Every sincere movement toward truth is met with grace. Every honest question gets an answer, even if you don't recognize it immediately. This is what the teaching means when it says God races toward those who turn toward Him. You're not climbing up to an indifferent deity. You're responding to one who's been pursuing you with more intensity than you're pursuing Him. All He's waiting for is your willingness, your openness, your yes. And when you give it, when you finally stop running and turn around, when you say, I'm ready to love what's actually worth loving, whatever it costs, everything changes. Not instantly, not magically, but progressively, reliably, transformatively. The fever starts breaking, the fog starts lifting, the weights start falling away, and underneath all of it, you discover what was there all along, your true nature, the you that was created to reflect divine qualities, the you that was designed for this love, the you that's been buried under layers of false attachments and misdirected desire. That you emerges, not because you created it, because you finally stopped covering it up. This is the promise of the path, not that you'll become something you're not, that you'll become what you actually are, what you were always meant to be, a reflection of the divine, a demonstration of what happens when a human soul aligns completely with divine will, a living testimony that this path is real and the destination is reachable. You become the evidence that skeptics need, the hope that seekers require, the demonstration that transformation is possible, not through preaching, through being, through living as someone who's been consumed by divine fire and emerged purified. And others will see it, feel it, want to know how you got there, and you'll be able to tell them. I stopped trying to love what can't satisfy. I started seeking what can. I walked toward the fire even though it scared me, and it transformed me in ways I couldn't have imagined. That's your testimony, your evidence, your contribution to the collective elevation of consciousness. You don't do this alone. You don't do it for yourself alone. You do it as part of a progression that's been happening since humans first started seeking something beyond themselves. You join a lineage of people who chose truth over comfort, reality over illusion, divine love over worldly substitutes. And in joining that lineage, you become part of the solution to the fundamental human problem. We don't know what we're for. We don't understand our purpose. We keep looking in wrong places for what's only found in one place. But when enough people find the right place, when enough souls align with divine will, when enough hearts get filled with real love instead of substitutes, everything shifts, not just individually, collectively. This is bigger than personal transformation. This is about the transformation of human consciousness itself, about a species learning to love what's actually worth loving. And it starts with individuals, people like you, who hear this teaching and recognize truth in it, who feel the pull towards something real, who are willing to take the first step even when the path isn't clear. So, take it. Take that step. Whatever it is for you right now. Maybe it's prayer. Maybe it's study. Maybe it's changing one habit. Maybe it's having one honest conversation with yourself about what you're actually loving. Whatever it is, do it. Not tomorrow, today, now. Because your life is happening now. Your transformation can begin now. Your journey toward real love can start this moment. All it requires is willingness, openness, the humble acknowledgement that you don't have this figured out and you need help. And when you bring that honest, humble willingness, you'll find that help was waiting for you all along. Grace was already there. The door was already open. All you had to do was walk through it. So, walk and keep walking, even when it's hard, even when you can't see where you're going, even when everything in you wants to turn back, because the texts promise, and I've seen this proven again and again. Those who strive in this cause will be shown the ways that lead to their goal, will be shown, Not might be, not if they're lucky, will be. If you genuinely seek, you will genuinely find. If you knock, it will be opened. If you ask, you will receive. This is the nature of divine love. It's not withheld from seekers. It's given freely to anyone willing to receive it. The only thing between you and complete transformation is your willingness to begin, and to continue, and to trust the process even when you can't see the results. That's all. Just those 3 things. Are you willing? If yes, then you already have everything you need. The path is clear. The promise is sure. The destination is guaranteed. Not easy, not quick, but certain. And on the other side of this journey is everything you've been searching for in all the wrong places. The satisfaction that finally satisfies. The love that fills infinite capacity. The peace that passes understanding. It's real. It's reachable. It's waiting for you. All you have to do is begin. So begin.